You let me know.
I will. All right. We are live on Periscope.
And we're live on Periscope.
We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Twitter. And we're live on ParanormalWarehouse.com right now.
Hi, everybody.
What's
welcome,
up?
welcome. Tuesday, Phenomenon Encounter. Taco
On
Tuesday.
time, 2 weeks in a row. This is crazy.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row. We're going for a record here.
You want to know
See
the
how-
funniest? You want to know the funniest shit? So I'm getting messages because you guys are on the road today. You and Chris are on the road. So I must have had 5 or 6 people sending me messages. Are you guys going to be able to do the show tonight? Denise is on the road. Her and Chris are shooting pictures of them on the road. Is she going to be able to be on time?
People were worried.
They are. They're definitely worried.
Hey, look, we're on Periscope.
Yeah, look
Just
at that,
popped
huh?
up on my phone.
I told you that already.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Guys,
did
thanks
tell
so
me
much for
that.
tuning in. Make sure that you're hitting that share button. Make sure that you are giving us lots of likes, inviting your friends on Periscope. Please invite your friends on Periscope. Invite all of them, not just 1 or 2. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook, share on all the social media sites. And thank you to Paranormal Warehouse for having us and sponsoring our show every week. It's been awesome.
That's right. It has been awesome. Just want to say thank you to everyone that's tuning in. Thanks for always being so loyal, tuning in every Tuesday and listening to these 2 wacky co-hosts and their awesome guests. This is, like Dan says, a 2nd week in a row that we go on time. We're gonna see how many shows we can go on time in a row. I don't want to screw myself over and be late next week, so we're gonna be on time. I promise you all.
And for those that saw my webpage or my Facebook page today, you all saw that it's the 1-year anniversary of the Pickle Show. If you guys all remember the infamous Pickle Show, where I was with Bernice Golden, and at the end of that show, I had advised the 500 people that were in the chat room to go get their psychic readings from Denise and Mooney immediately following the show. And in order to get their questions answered quicker, they needed to hashtag pickle or John Wilkes Booth. Because now, and a couple hours before this, Denise had said, Dan, because I always go in and troll, I always try to make her laugh in the middle of her show. Dan, please don't come in. This is going to be a very serious show. We're talking about past lives, and we're doing live readings. Please, Dan. I promised her I would not go into the chat room and say a word. But 500 other people did.
Jerk.
and just to see Chris's face, why are people saying pick? Oh. You guys can go relive that after the show. I have the live broadcast up on my Facebook page. You guys can go just watch the first 10 minutes of the show. It's all you need. You just need the first 10 minutes.
Dan.
He's starting already.
And then you could tell he was getting perturbed, but he was trying to keep it together. He was like, do you guys want this to be a reading show or a funny show? Because you can't have both.
and then as he's trying to be serious and reading stuff, Dee is taking a sip of water and she almost spits the water out because he's like, John Wilkes Booth. That was the first time he ever said John Wilkes Booth. And then she's like, and she put her head down in the garbage. Oh, that was great. I could just watch it every day just to laugh, to get a good laugh.
That was great. I love that show. That's got Chris is looking at me right now. He's like giving me the stink eye. You guys want this to be a rating show or a funny show? You can't have both. He was all pissed off. Well, there you go, Dan. You got me going.
Yeah. Well, bringing us to tonight's awesome guest, right?
Yes, and we already have him laughing his ass off.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all right. That's all right. That's all good. That means he watches our show. I mean, he knows.
I do.
Yeah, he's a phenomenite.
Yeah.
That's right.
Woo! So, everybody, help us welcome the very awesome Josh Hurd onto our show, Phenomenon Encountered. Welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yay! All right, so that's
Yeah.
it. I'm just kidding.
Right. See you guys.
We just wanted to bring him on to say hi. That's it,
Just
Josh.
gonna say
Josh.
hi.
All right, let's talk about pickles. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right.
Sure, I'm sure the majority of the people watching already know who you are, know what you do, and know a little bit about your documentaries and stuff. But for those people that are watching that maybe don't know who Dan and I are, don't know who you are, that are first timers bouncing on here and checking us out, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do and what you're all about?
So my name is Josh Hurd. I am a paranormal documentary filmmaker, author, lecturer, co-owner of what we call Malvern Manor in Malvern, Iowa. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much me in a nutshell right there. So I've done written 6 books. I've done, my God, now 9 documentary films.
Wow.
So, I mean, I try to keep myself as busy as possible at all times. Otherwise, I tend to get in trouble, you know, so, I mean,
I hear you.
it happens, you know. It is what it is.
If you have too much time on your hands, you definitely get in trouble.
Absolutely.
I know that for sure.
Just gotta keep going.
Yep.
Gotta keep busy.
Yeah.
And so you recently had the it was Patience, right?
Yeah,
Patience
Patience.
on Vidispace, and
It's still
first of
there,
all,
by the way. Not recently.
yes,
it's
it
still
is
there.
still there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it because I remember it.
Of course you do. It was funny because it was almost like I was haunting you. Like when you guys,
Yes, you were.
you guys were trying to be all serious. It's like, my name is Josh Hurd. People are like, what is going on?
Yeah, we
Hey,
kept hearing
Josh,
your voice.
Josh, they're saying on Periscope that you forgot to say that you're so honest and that you are very humble and ever so funny and that you're also the host of the Ecto Show.
I do
That's
that as well.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
I do
Thank you.
also do weekly podcast called the Ectoplasm Show. I also do a weekly podcast. We're taking a little break until August, but it's called Conversations in the Dark. It's all about Malvern Manor and just the goings on there. So, yeah, I guess I totally spaced the podcast stuff there
That's
for
all
a
right.
second. I do apologize.
He forgot that he's a host, guys. It's
Hey.
okay.
It happens, I guess. Thank you out there for keeping me honest. I appreciate that.
But yeah, so what before we get into all this, because I mean you've got several projects, different things that you've worked on and that you do, and in regards to the documentary film, The Patience, like I wanted to know what was it that inspired you to say, okay, I got to work on this, I got to put this out. What made you want to just, take on that project?
It was just the story itself, honestly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was about the story, but it has fascinated me for years, and I just wanted to try my best to get to the bottom of it as much as I possibly could. Talk to people that may be a little more knowledgeable on the subject. I mean, that's what ultimately, took us to St. Louis, to the Historical Society there. Yeah, just interesting stuff, really. And I've always been enthralled anyway with the Ouija board, the idea of the Ouija board. And if it is, a legitimate form of spirit communication, or if it's somehow, people are manipulating this in some way, shape, or form, whether known or unknown, whether it's like a group consciousness thing that's going on, willing it into existence, or what. But I mean, just the idea of the Ouija board in general has always just, fascinated me. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so it's like you said, the idea of the Ouija board has always fascinated you. So do you believe that it can be used safely?
Yeah, absolutely. I pick, or I look at the Ouija board similar to the way I look at like a K2 meter, honestly.
Communication.
Now there's just kind of, I mean, just, your idea is there. You want to communicate with the other side no matter what. So instead of, blinking lights and things like that, you have a board and a planchette, the alphabet and numbers laid out in front of you. I don't know, just that's my personal feeling. I know a lot of people feel obviously different. Like there's definitely a stigma that's attached to the Ouija board. Whether that's, I don't know, justified or not. Like Hollywood, I know, has a lot to do with that as well. So,
and then of course there's people that have had bad experiences with that, and you know they've used it, and it seems to a lot of stories do sound very similar. A lot of people that have stories with using Ouija board have similar stories where they started, they continued, and then everything just went downhill, and everything just went out of control for them. But one thing that I find similar in all those stories is people that were using it didn't really know what they were doing. Were doing it as like as trying to.
They didn't know
just
what their intent
dabble.
was. They didn't have any intent.
bingo.
Didn't know who they were trying to communicate with. They didn't, you know. And then you have people that have been doing this for a long time, been practicing with that, have been using it. They know that it becomes part of them. They can do it safely. So I think that there is something. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, that there is something to it. Can be done safely, but like anything else, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what your intent is, and you go out there and you're just trying to play around with it, there's going to be repercussions.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, look at. I mean, I wonder if we could do like a poll and say who got affected by a Ouija board, and then we took a poll across the country of paranormal investigators who got scratched. I mean, how many times a week do you hear that somebody's getting scratched or touched or pushed or something like that? And you're not even using a Ouija board. You're just investigating. You're putting yourselves into situations that could happen anywhere. So.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
The more I learn about it, I was kind of one of those people where I'm like, you're letting it take over your body, you're letting it, But now, like Dee said, if you're doing the right things, it's something that you can probably utilize.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some people that they just, it's not their thing. They won't do it. They don't feel comfortable, and I would say to them, if you don't feel comfortable, if it's not your thing, please don't do it. Because if you already go in there with hesitations, then don't do it. Don't put yourself in that position, because probably something's going to go wrong if you're not confident. I mean, if your thing is pendulum, stick to that. If your thing is spirit box, stick to that. If your thing is just a voice record, I mean, everybody has their thing that they feel most comfortable doing. So, yeah, definitely. Because I know I've heard of cases where people feel they have that hesitation with using one. They use it anyways, and then everything just spirals out of control. And I think it's because they're not confident.
Fear feeds into it, and then there's just
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We have a lot of people now that I've seen kind of making a comeback, so to speak, is the dowsing rods. My God, like a lot of people are using dowsing rods, at least at Malvern anyway. Really super cool though.
Yeah.
I
think
love
it's good to go back to the roots, Because think about some of the theories. I mean, it's way better than some of the stuff that's out now. Yeah,
for sure, and a hell of a lot cheaper too.
Let me ask you this: do you allow Ouija boards at Malvern? Some places.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, whatever. Honestly, I figure it's their investigation. However, they feel like conducting that investigation. Far be it from me to tell you how to do that or not to do that. So yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
That's awesome. Awesome. And what do you think is because like that, that's sort of like old school investigating with Ouija board, with dowsing rods, with do you think sometimes that gets better results than or do you like just trying just testing are you, because there's some people that think yeah,
I'll try everything, like it doesn't matter, but at the same time, like you look at some of the old case files and things of that nature. I mean, just all the way back, like even to like Ed and Lorraine Warren, right? Hans Holz, things of that nature. Like you look at some of the experiments that they were doing, things that are so absolutely simplistic, like tying a bell around a door. You know what I'm saying? Around a doorknob. Just different things of that nature. Reel-to-reel recording. Obviously, there's a huge difference between analog and digital recording that a lot of people just don't even realize. But like, I do think there is something to be said about like some of those old school methods, kind of making a comeback or coming back, or at least trying to implement them more into what we're doing and trying to build off of what was done decades ago. I think it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I want to just say real quick to the people that are listening on Paranormal Warehouse, on Twitter, on Periscope, anywhere you're listening, if you want to shoot in your questions for Josh, we'll ask him, and he'll definitely answer your questions. Anything you want to know about what he's done, any of his projects, his investigation, anything. I have a question for you, and I know this is like one of those basic questions everyone always asks, but I'm going to ask because I'm sure there's people out there listening and they want to know.
Yeah.
What has been your most significant experience with the paranormal?
Wow. Yeah.
Good question.
So, it is a good question. It's interesting to me because it's, looking back on all of this, it's kind of what set me on this path. And it was really my first major experience with anything. Now, obviously, I was always interested in ghost stories and things like that, all that fun stuff, like we all are as kids. But it wasn't until I was, just at the point of adolescence. I was like 12 years old. I lost an uncle who was very close to me. There were some very odd things like surrounding his death specifically that got me asking the bigger questions in life. Like, there's definitely more going on here than what we're privy to. And so that's really what set me on this path. Now, I mean, having experiences like that, like smelling his cologne, for example, I don't even know what the hell that cologne was, or even if it's still made or anything. But I mean, that was definitely profound for me. Now, was that just my brain, remembering him, or remembering that smell specifically?
But I think like 90% of the grandpas wore like Old Spice, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man. That's a very distinct smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of the best smells ever I associate with my father. It's Old Spice mixed with cigarette smoke. Oh my God, it's like heaven to me. I don't know why, but I love it. But it was things like that, and experiences like that with my uncle specifically that set me on this path, and I started just devouring everything that I could possibly. And it wasn't just the spook yourself type of ghost stories. It was the Ed and Lorraine Warren. It was Hans Holzer. It was things like that, like parapsychology and parapsychological studies, which is quite something to be getting into when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, and everybody else thinks you're a freaking crackpot. You know what I mean? But it's interesting, but that's definitely what set me on this path for sure.
Cool.
Wow.
Rosa asks in Periscope, what's the scariest situation that you've ever been in?
So that's the next one. Yeah. Okay.
Let's just roll right into it.
Yeah. So I wrote this book that's called When Ghost Hunting Goes Wrong. And it was basically, I was obviously interested in all of this stuff. However, I didn't have much experience whatsoever in the field, so to speak. Now, it wasn't until I was in college I found some like-minded individuals who wanted to explore this with me. And that was right about the time that this really cool show called Ghost Hunters was just hitting the airwaves. I think we watched about 4 episodes of that show and knew everything there was to know about ghost hunting.
A lot of people have that same story.
I'm like, guys, no, this is great. Like, these guys are plumbers. Like, we got this. We got this.
If they can do it, we can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. We ended up going to this place because obviously right around Halloween time, that's when the local papers are going to start really running spooky type stories. Well, we heard of this place right outside of this town that we were actually attending college in Northwest Missouri. And it was interesting because it's an old chapel. Now, the chapel itself, it looks more like an old barn. But, I mean, regardless, we went there. 4 consecutive nights, not a lot of anything really happened whatsoever. Knocks, bangs, footsteps, blah, blah, blah. But it was the 4th night that, I mean, things went terribly wrong. I hadn't even set foot inside the chapel. In fact, nobody even set foot inside the chapel before. I mean, this ultimately was one of the scariest experiences of my entire life. It ultimately took the work of a priest to rectify the whole situation. And I mean, ultimately, this was the reason why I wanted to write the book. I'm not a writer, guys. I'm really not. It was more of a therapy session for me. I figured it would way to go about it. Still to this day, me and the guys that are, usually with me and stuff like that, like have nightmares.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Things. It's like this paranormal PTSD thing,
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
It's super weird. We've tried many times to rectify it. So I mean, we did that film, A Brush with Evil. When we did A Brush with Evil, that is me retelling When Ghost Hunting Goes Wrong, and we take it about 20 steps farther with that team. That was more of like trying to put everything behind us once and for all, trying to put this crap to bed. Finally, it worked, kind of, but I will say, like, we're all still dealing with all sorts of fun stuff, on the side.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Whether
when
you
say,
really get rid of it, it's I don't know.
That's what I was going to say. When you say you're still dealing with all sorts of fun stuff, that takes me to another question, because I saw several people asked if you ever have suffer from things following you or attachments. So that would answer that question. That you have had.
It's interesting too. Like obviously, we do a lot of traveling, and it's funny to me because I'll be investigating somewhere. Like when I went to Gettysburg, for example. And it was the 3 days following after I got home that things were really active around my house. But it was only 3 days. And I've noticed this pattern. Like 3 days after you return home and you finally relax a little bit and you get to kind of settle down for a minute, that things are going on around your house. It's almost like they're following you and then just kind of seeing like who you are, what you're about, and then going about their business. It's very interesting. So.
Oh, wow.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's got to be not just scary but disturbing and uncomfortable and all that, but it's isn't it weird, like even though you go through all that, you sort of have like after a while you develop like this tolerance, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm used to it. Like and it's like one of those things, well, I'm used to it, and if you think about it, that's kind of sad, right? Like when you're like, well, I'm used to this. I'm used to this torture.
Well, that's just it. Like when we were doing A Brush with Evil, like basically anything that could have gone wrong with that project absolutely went wrong. Like up until the fact, like 24 hours before we were to begin filming, it was 75% of the film crew quit, like just done.
Damn.
And I mean. Plane tickets were purchased, like the whole 9 yards. Like these dudes were coming, but they just bounced. They were done. Very interesting stuff. My father was hospitalized the day that we started filming, but it's super interesting to look back on everything because if you guys watch A Brush with Evil, the first 10 minutes of that movie is like I wanted to open it up with a ghost hunt, like this is who we are, this is how we do things, a very broad stroke version of everything. But what's interesting is the location we were in has a bar that's attached to it. And I didn't realize that, right? So noise contamination, all that crap, like we could not investigate it all. End up going outside and meeting this dude who was like, I own a really cool, kind of creepy place, and it's 10,000 square feet. It used to be a hotel, and then it was a nursing home, and then it was like this like mental health facility and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, where is this place? He's like, oh, it's just right across the street.
Wow.
So literally the first 10 minutes of that film, like I didn't even realize this at the time, but we walked into this building. We had so much activity go on in just the first 2 hours that we were there that I didn't realize, that building that we had just entered was about to become what we now call Malvern Manor. I mean, that first 10 minutes of the film is us finding that building, which is really, really weird to think about in retrospect now, especially with what I do for a living, So.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how did you end up acquiring the building?
So, again, really weird turn of events, happy accidents.
It acquired you. No.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of. I'm really starting to wonder, right? It's very interesting because, I said to the guy, his name was Quincy, he owned the place, and I was like, dude, I don't think you realize what you have here, right? Like, you need to share this with people. I'm like, I will run the tours. I will do whatever. I will take the cash or the check or whatever. I will run it to you, after I checked them in, and that's the agreement we had.
Uh-huh.
I got $0, you know, for like the first 2 years of this venture,
Wow.
right? Like, but it was amazing. So the first 6 months, it was exactly like that. Like, I'd check him in, and that was that. I'd run him the money and call it good. Just bizarre, because then like 6 months then after the fact, like, he called me and he's like, I have to sell the place. I got to sell my house. I'm going to sell that place. I got a new job. I'm leaving the area. I was like, just give me 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Just hang on. Don't do anything crazy yet. So yeah, I mean, ultimately that's how then we got it. That's how I became co-owner of the place.
So you
Wow.
kind of had a little inside, but you had to put 2 years in to get the inside scoop.
Yes, sir. Like, absolutely. There was definitely
Now,
some sweat and tears there.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you've got a strong. You always felt a strong connection to the location, right? Like a calling, like.
Yeah, and it's super weird. Like, it's such a small town, and I grew up literally 10 miles away from that town. So we would go to that town to like go swimming as kids and stuff. Now, I didn't realize this, but like after we were done with the pool, usually grandma would like take us out for ice cream or something afterwards, right? Well, there's this really cool place, this diner, that's quite literally in the front yard of this monstrosity of Malvern. There, right in the front yard is a diner, a little mom and pop burger joint. We would stop there all the time. I had no idea that building even was there. And it's so huge, like it's hard to miss. Like, it's really hard to miss. I had no idea it was even there. So weird to me how all of this happens. Yeah, I just don't get it.
But the thing is, it was supposed to happen. That's why it happened like it did.
Yeah,
you know?
Probably.
You know, because think about everything that transpired, everything that happened, the way it happened, all the sequence of events, chain of events, and then where you are now. Where everything's taking you. I mean, there's a reason behind everything, not to get real like, you know, like that or deep, but there's a reason behind everything. And I, you know, and just in listening to you talk about it and you know, tuning into your energy and everything, it's so apparent that it wasn't going to happen any other way, first of all. It wasn't. And I honestly do feel, not to get all psychic on you or anything, but I really do feel that those 2 years you put in was the location kind of getting to know you and then saying, okay, we're ready now. We want you now. That's the vibe I get. The strong vibe I get. And I don't know if that resonates.
It's like putting
with
a goldfish into a new tank. You leave it in the bag and then you open it up and drop it in, right?
Yeah, exactly. You gotta let it acclimate.
I really do feel like that. And everything happened the way it did because it was supposed to happen that way. It wasn't going to happen any other way. And I really do feel that there's going to be a lot more bigger things coming your way. And just, it's always going to be surrounding you and the location and more things coming out of it. And it's just, you're doing what you're meant to do. You're doing what you're meant to do, and you're going to do more. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just, I had to say that. That was a complete download. And I know it's about
I'm glad you said that.
I have to tell you that. So. But yeah,
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you don't think I'm crazy. I hope that resonates with you.
No, that's 100% true.
Yeah, good. It's the same thing with Dan too. Like I always tell him, I really do feel that he's meant to be doing what he's doing with the Hinsdale house. Like that's his calling. He's not supposed to be doing it. And as a matter of fact, I don't know, man. I can feel that Dan would be doing the same thing with another location as well down in the future, not just Hinsdale. But I know that he's got his hands full with Hinsdale, so he's got to do that first.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
So there you go. And Michelle Childers says Dan knows. Look, Jenny, Steve James says, you were meant to own the place. Can't wait to come back. So yeah, people do agree. You were meant. Definitely. That's the vibe. The sense I get that it was supposed to be yours. It was just it had to happen the way it did because it had to happen in the right time.
Yeah.
And now it's yours, and you're where you're supposed to be, and greater things are going to happen. You just wait, Josh.
Yeah, when you follow your path, good things happen.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
I agree with that.
Let's see. We've got. I want to see any comments in the.
I got questions.
Yeah, go for it.
I have the most. I have the typical questions. You know, like everybody always likes to know. Like, While what I mean, if you could maybe name, obviously you're partial to the location you own. So besides for that,
Sure.
you've been all over the country investigating. What are some of your favorites and why? Other locations.
One of the biggest ones for me is, Villisca. Number one, it's close. Number two, it's just an amazing location anyway. The energy in that place is just unreal. There's this one place I know, it's in Pennsylvania. I think it's called Hillview Manor.
Mm-hmm.
That place absolutely terrified me. And
Really?
And I don't know why. Like, it was weird. Like, the amount of experiences that we had there, it was unreal to me. And it was at the most inopportune times, like when you're walking down the long hallway to go take a whiz or something, like something would happen. And you're like, oh, okay, great. Don't need to use the restroom anymore. Like, it was like weird voices, like right behind you, like it's like they were standing right behind you and whispering in your ear, but right there. The things that make you jump and spin, So yeah, that place really got to me.
That is very active location.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, though. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
And besides your own location, because I'm sure this one, obviously, your location calls you and you got to be there. But is there any other location you've been to that sort of is calling you back and you're like, I got to go back there? There's something about that place.
Yeah. So I will always say that I am constantly fighting the urge to go back to what we call Workman's Chapel from the book and the film and all that stuff. I cannot freaking do it. Like, there's absolutely no way I could allow myself to go back there. But I mean, it's even to the point where some of my buddies will call me and they'll be like, hey, do you want to go? Like, we could just cruise down there. It's only like 90 minutes away. We could cruise down there. It's fine. And I'm like, yeah, I really want to go, but no, we can't do it. So,
yeah, but no.
Like, that's the one place. Like, there's just too much crap associated with it, just way too much crap. So.
Let's see. I've got a question from Heather Larson. She says, do you plan to film a documentary completely around the Malvern Manor's history and activity? Sorry if this was already asked. I was listening but working. LOL.
I think that's a great...
That is an awesome question.
It is a great idea, and I would love to tackle that project. I would love it.
I think that would be an awesome project, like just the complete history.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think the one that should do it is you. Nobody better than yourself to do it.
Well, and I would totally be on board with doing it. However, I do feel that it would probably have to be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, because it's so weird. Like, even to this day, we're still getting
learning
more. Like, and it's like this gigantic crossword puzzle.
Yeah,
we're
of course
constantly trying to put together. And I mean, history is fascinating anyway. But my God, like, there's so much. Like, that would be a massive documentary too.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think if you wait, like, further down the line, because right now you're still learning more, you're still getting more. I mean, unless if you do it now, you'd have to, do a part 2.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
More history that we've learned, part 2, uncovered. Yeah, because I mean, and the thing is, the more you're there, I mean, you're always. That's the thing. I feel like you're always going to be uncovering new information, new truths, new things that are going to spark up, and you're always going to be learning. And that's what this is. It's all about research, learning, and you're never going to stop. And new facts come up, new things, some things that probably have never been documented that the spirits are going to relay to you. That you say, okay, this is Class A evidence, and even though there's no hard proof, documented, but I mean, I can't deny this evidence we capture. I mean, so there's always going to be new things that spark up. Some things may be documented, some things may not. So that's just what this, what researching and studying the paranormal is.
Yeah, for sure. It's always very important to me that I'm not presenting people with horse crap. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, as an investigator myself, like, I don't want that. I don't want to put out false information at all. I mean, it was to the point, like, when we first, took over the building, there was a lot of people around town that I spoke with. There was a lot of former staff members that were there that I spoke with. the problem was I was getting like 30 to 40 conflicting accounts of different things that were going on there. I'm like, oh my God, this is so frustrating. To the point where like we ended up hiring a private detective, and he did a 3-week-long investigation specifically just on the grounds, the people that used to work there. You know, I mean, he went deep with this, and I told him to. Like, I'm like, I want to know everything there is to know, good, bad, and otherwise. And from there, you know, we'll decide what to present to people.
That's good.
If it's tactful, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to get too nasty or anything with that. And you certainly, I don't want to step on toes.
True.
Especially in small town Iowa. You know what I mean? I don't want to make enemies. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to me. Like walking into the place, finding like all this documentation, like HIPAA violations out the rump, right? Like, it was ridiculous. Like whoever the custodian of records was at that time, it was quite literally like they just packed up and left. Like they just shut it down and it was done. So whoever the custodian of records was did not do their job. Whoever that was.
What would you say is the coolest? So from the time that you purchased it and started researching, what do you think is like kind of the coolest piece of new information that you found out that you didn't know? I mean, dude, I know like you're finding stuff out probably every day, but I mean, like it happens to me too. But like, what's cool right now? What's the newest? What's the newest stuff?
The newest thing, I will tell you this, and then I'll get into like one of the coolest things. So like the newest thing is the fact like that we have this little spirit, like a little girl, it would seem like, calls herself Inez. Got the name Inez Gibson, by a very period name, right? Now, going with the detective story, right? There was a 12-year-old girl named Inez Gibson, which was interesting enough, right? Who passed away. Now we're talking, it was December 27th of 1900. She was outside playing with her 8-year-old brother Otto. She was either cold or bored or whatever, but she says, I'm going upstairs. 10 minutes pass and Otto comes upstairs as well. He finds his sister hanging by her jump rope in the closet, right? It's so bizarre to me. It looks like a suicide. It smells like a suicide. I don't buy it. It was a suicide. Right now, I can't speak to the mentality of a 12-year-old girl in 1900. Okay, but it does not seem to be a suicide in my opinion. But we know Otto then, and this is all like fairly new information too, but we know Otto tries to get her down, and he can't because he's only 8 years old. He runs to the grocery store. He grabs aunt and uncle. Aunt and uncle are also now adopted mom and dad to these kids. They had a really, really rough life. So this was a very new living situation for all parties involved. Now, we know that Otto grabs those two. He also grabs 2 doctors, sheer dumb luck in my opinion. They all race back. They get her down, try to resuscitate her, but I mean, way too much past, you know, at that point. And this was a story that absolutely shook the entire community, even to the point where one of those doctors trying to resuscitate her committed suicide. Wow. Not even 2 weeks after the fact. Now, it's interesting to me because we're getting all of this information. We're getting all of this evidence at the manor saying Inez Gibson, blah, blah, blah. Wow. We have really, really compelling SLS footage from the closet, like almost what appears to be reenacting this horrific scene. Now, here's where it gets jacked. We just found out she didn't die there. She never died on property. She died a block away in what is now an empty lot. It's bizarre to me. So I'm like, okay, did we, number one, like in 1900, that place was the place to be. You know, it was like weddings were held there, funerals were held there. They had seances there, you know, with the spirits movement and all that stuff. Like it was hopping all the time. So did she just go there? Like, I don't know. Like, did she just come to the location because she was attracted to the location? Or is it something else that's there that makes you want to think that it's a 12-year-old girl messing with you? Or is it possible that we just like created somehow a thought form or created what we would consider to be a ghost or paranormal activity? I mean, it's reminiscent of like what's
energy there. Yeah,
exactly. But if you guys look at what's called like the Philip experiment, I forget exactly what year that happened, but they basically made a ghost. they made a ghost. It was bizarre to me. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I intend fully to get to the bottom of it. Whether I do. Yeah. It's so bizarre to me. You will hear like the little pitter patters and footsteps running up and down the halls. She will call you by name and like ask you to come and play. Like weird stuff. So I don't know. It makes you wonder. It begs like different questions, you know. But again, this is all new information that just keeps coming and piling on us. So we're trying to roll with it as much as possible.
So who keeps all the information? Who documents it and keeps it, you know, so you keep putting this puzzle together? Are you like the caretaker of all that?
Yeah, pretty much. I've got it, yeah. Just keep adding to my binder, you know?
Yeah.
And try to fit in chronological order and all this fun stuff too. So yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Is that available for teams and people when they come in, or do you share that information with them when they come?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I think that's awesome. Oh, yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome that it's available to people, that you share that. That's amazing.
I wish more locations would do that. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only thing that I don't share, are those, sensitive documents, things like that.
Personal stuff.
We have, and we do still have those documents. I will say that. However, they're under lock and key in some office space that we own out of state. Like we just got them the hell out of the state. So I didn't want to be liable for any of that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
Now I've got, and I know the answer to this is going to be yes, but I want to ask. I've got a friend of mine's in there, and he's watching, he's listening. He says hi, by the way. His name's Joe Pena, and he says, do you investigate all angles of like when you're doing an investigation? Do you all angles of what's going on, what you're investigating? Do you look into everything, or try to at least?
I try to, for sure. There's a lot of things that obviously still have me, scratching my head for the most part.
Of course. Yeah.
There's certain things that I would like to do, but I'm not necessarily privy to some of the equipment that it would take. Like here's a good example. We got some interesting EVPs one evening that said buried alive, cellar, and dig. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, now here I am. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what do we do? Do we call
the shovels?
What do we
do?
The shovels. Yeah. Now it's interesting because Malvern Manor has 2 basements, right? Mm-hmm. One of them is concrete and brick and things like that. The other is nothing but dirt. It is quite literally just dirt. So I'm like, makes you wonder. Now, obviously, I would need like some pretty fantastical equipment to like ground penetrating radar and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I don't have it. I would freaking love to, but I, instead of going down there with the shovel and just digging my ass off, I don't know what else to do. Hurry up and wait, maybe get lucky one day. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I do try to tackle every aspect. Like, for example, we have what we call the Shadow Man in Manor. And what happens with the Shadow Man phenomenon or whatever, it's a very interesting thing because it's traveling the distance of about 30 to 40 feet in less than a second. It is moving very, very fast. And it seems to be charging directly at people. However, that's all it does. It doesn't hit, scratch, punch, bite, nothing. Like, that's it. The second you flinch, which I promise you will, like, it's the phenomenon's past. It's done and over with. So it's interesting to me. Now, looking into everything a little bit more and talking with some of the past employees, they're like, you're never going to believe this crap. They said in room 2, which just happens to be at the end of the hall where the Shadow Man is, coming from. In room 2, there was a gentleman that occupied that room who, number one, was 6'7". Okay, so he's quite tall. He was a nonverbal patient, so he wouldn't speak. He was mentally deranged, and I mean really, really mentally deranged. He had killed a few people in the past. They didn't even really assist this gentleman putting on his shoes in the morning. You know, he was actively going to try to hurt you in some way. And this was more of like a game for him. I honestly don't think he knew any better. I will honestly go to bat for him there and say that. It's interesting to me because his claim to fame while he was there, is he would come out of that room whenever they were doing bed checks or rounds or what have you. Whoever was doing the documenting, though, he would come out of that room and chase them. He would run after them to the point where, I mean, these people were freaking out.
Yeah.
They would drop the clipboard and just take off. You know, they were just booking it. You know,
Sure.
like, isn't that fascinating that we're seeing similar behaviors with this shadow man as this gentleman's behavior supposedly was in life? I'm like, these former people that used to work there, they may have answered like 1,000 different questions that we have. Obviously, we're always left with 1,000 more, but that's the name of the game, I suppose. So.
I saw an interesting question in here, and I want to get your take on it. It's in regards to, you were talking about the little girl, the 12-year-old little girl. Teresa McGowan says, was the building moved at all? Maybe her building moved near?
That's interesting.
That is a good theory.
That is a really good thought. That I don't have the answer to. I will say, like,
I wonder.
The house used to sit. It is 100% an empty lot now. It is 100% empty. So that does make you wonder what happened to the original structure, whether it was buried, which a lot of people do that now. They'll trash it, burn it, and bury it. Or what exactly is going on there? I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, that's a good theory there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best thing about this, is having all these people throwing things at you.
Yeah.
Like, I love it because
now that makes you think too. Like, whoa, I got to check in on that. Yeah.
It happens all the
time.
time.
Crossed my mind, but yeah, absolutely, it does. Yeah, I never even thought about that. I love that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I know. And now I'm going to be bugging you. Did you find out? Did you find out?
Like, now the wheels are turning, right? I'm like, oh, God.
Another project, Josh.
I'm going to be completely useless for the rest of this interview, I promise.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it. It's totally plausible that could have happened. Especially with the way, like you were saying. When I read that, I was like, I got to ask you this. Going back.
I love it. Yeah.
Somebody asked where we all were. Dwayne Johnson. He asked if we were all on the East Coast, and I am in New York. Denise is at the La Quinta in El Paso, Texas. If anybody's at in El Paso and you want to meet Dee and Mooney, just go to La Quinta, room 211.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad.
Oh,
Bring your tacos.
Oh, Daniel.
That's good stuff. I'm nestled right here in the southwest corner of Iowa right now. That's where I'm chilling. So
chilling.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's see. We got any more questions? I want to see. I saw another interesting. Well, it's more of a comment.
Smile Kyle comes in and he asks questions that were already asked. Kyle, you need to come in at the start of the show at 8:30. Smile Kyle, and ask the questions and not ask questions that were already asked. Come on, Kyle.
Question here, Joe, and it's an interesting question, and I want to know what both you and Josh, what's your take on this? Because I'm sure several of us have different opinions on why this happens, but he wants to know, when you ask a question, like to the spirits, whether it's through EVP, Spirit Box, however, when you ask a question, why do most of them answer with only one word? Josh, you first, go.
Yeah, that's a great question. Gosh, I don't know. Like, it's interesting to me because I have got the one syllable or the one word responses, obviously. But I've also received, what would seem to be, full sentences, exactly, with inflection, which is interesting too. Almost like you're having just a standard conversation with somebody, which is fascinating. So I would break it all down to the fact that, whatever energy possibly is available to them, or whatever they would need, to manifest, and manipulate sound waves, or however we are, recording that. I don't know, like whatever is available to them might possibly, garner that response.
Yeah, I think
So
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
important too when you're using a spirit box. Like I always record it, like and go back and listen to it because
Yes.
there's always there's always something that comes out that you don't hear when you're listening to a spirit box in a big group. Unless you have headphones on or something like that, it's important to go back and review your evidence. Secondly, I think that it's like with Mooney, with the box that he uses. He's used that for so long. He is so in tune with it, and I see that when I'm using my Geo box, like or not one of the other boxes that I use all the time. Every investigation I go on, you hear things that other people don't hear because you're so in tune with that white noise, and you're listening, and you can hear the things that are coming on the underbelly of that. So I think it's a situation of using it more often, maybe trying to use it on every investigation, and definitely record your sessions, because when you go back and enhance things and listen to things, you'll probably be surprised that there is more than one word answers coming through.
Yeah. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Yeah, and I agree with that, because I know there's been situations when we do, and it happens to all of us, when we do get just the one word answer, but I've said on several occasions we've received whole sentences, and like Josh says, with inflection and phrases, and then sometimes we'll get like a sentence, and then a couple of seconds later another sentence that has to do with what they just told us. So it'll be like I didn't see the car.
Yeah.
It was across the street. Like, so like you said, you're having a conversation. So I've had that happen several times. And I also agree it's really important to record the sessions and go back and review, because sometimes when you're there, like in the moment, you hear certain things. But if you go back and listen, oh my gosh, you could hear, sometimes there's like more than one spirit trying to get a message across, and you hear them talking over each other. And one of the fascinating things that happened to us, and this happened when we were in New Orleans at Bloody Mary's museum, we actually witnessed the spirits talking to each other. So it became, we stopped asking questions, and all of us just sort of sat back, and we were just witnessing this conversation take place. And it was sort of like closure that they needed between themselves. It was a couple, and they were just going back and forth, and it sounded like an argument at first, and then we were like, oh my God, we're just sitting back, and we had no question because they were just going on, and it was a full-blown argument conversation, and we were just like, we're not even asking. We were just witnessing all that, so we just recorded it, and that was amazing. So
that's so cool. So
you can get some really cool things. Yeah.
Man.
Definitely. So now the next question is, when are either of you going to appear on Ghostbox Chronicles Live?
Well, for me, that will be coming up in a couple of weeks.
And for Mr. Josh Hurd.
Yeah, no kidding, right? When are you going to have me on?
Yeah, we're going to have to set something up, because I think that'd be really cool.
You want to fly to Buffalo in a couple weeks? You can be on too.
There you go.
Yeah, it'd be really cool, I think.
We'll just throw that into the budget, an extra plane ticket. Denise,
it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
But yeah, definitely.
If you guys want Josh to fly into Buffalo and be on Ghostbox Chronicles in 2 weeks, live on VidiSpace, I want there to be 100 thumbs up going right now. Everybody start doing the thumbs up in the chat room, and let's see if we can get to 100 of them. If we get to 100 of them, Denise is going to buy his plane ticket personally.
Yeah, there it is. I was like, send your
if we get to 100, Dan's going to buy him not only a plane ticket, but a week-long vacation to stay there. Yeah. Dan already said that he'll do that. He'll buy you that.
Of course I will.
And then he'll take you. After filming, he'll take you himself.
Here they come
across the border to Canada.
Yeah,
and you and him will film a new project. Josh and Dan in Canada. You guys will go meet up with Smile Kyle. It'll be great.
There you go.
I can't wait to see that. Oh my God. Dan,
we're getting blown up. Let's do it.
You're buying him a vacation.
There it is. Just say, I'm gonna go tell my wife, guys. Just say, like, hey, we're going.
Oh Lord.
Oh my God.
Lord. So guys, come on, any last minute questions here for Josh? And now they're all because of Dan. He's ruined the show once again.
I didn't ruin the show. This is you gotta have some fun into it.
We've got people.
Now she says like last year it was I'm trolling. Now I'm ruining the show. I'm trolling my own show, guys. Somebody's gotta.
Dan, you're a troll and you're being a bully.
Josh, where can they find you? I mean, if they want to, obviously a lot of people know that the live streams are up on Paranormal Warehouse and the Haunted Dot Space, but where can they find some of your work to watch?
If you guys go to joshhurd.net, that's my website. The books are on there, the films are on there, things of that nature. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much where it's all at right there.
And your newest film is on the Haunted Dot Space.
Yeah, that's the only place you can find it right now. Absolutely.
Exclusively on the Haunted Dot Space.
Exclusive. Yep. That
and it's called Patience.
Just
go there, subscribe, log in, and go click on the films button, guys, and it'll be right there to watch. And there'll be some other great independent filmmakers as well, with some other great documentaries on there. So definitely some cool stuff on VidiSpace. I like what they're doing with that. How did you get affiliated with that?
Dude, I threw up a prayer, man. That's all it was. Like, I had at that point, I had done like A Brush with Evil 1 and 2. They were the biggest ones that I had done. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to submit it and see what happens. And so I just went through the channels, submitted it. And I mean, it was 3 hours later. I had an email from Elizabeth and she was like, hey, dude, let's do this. And I was like, all right, I'm going to start annoying the hell out of you. Here we go. Here we go, lady. Buckle up. It was great.
See, for all you people, for everybody out there that said that they don't think their stuff gets reviewed, it definitely does. It's just you got to remember it's growing. It's a growing beast, and it's a 2-person team, and it's expanding now. So all the stuff that's been sent in will get reviewed.
Yeah, for sure.
Eventually, they'll get back to you. It's just it's just tough with their schedules. You see them all over the place. I can't even believe that they do this. Honestly, sometimes I don't know how. Like I talk to her, I'm like, wow, you're just constantly busy. But
I know we just talked to her today. I mean, can you imagine how many of us bug her all the time?
I did too.
I always feel like I'm bugging
see, poor Elizabeth. Chris and I always feel like but we just talked to her today. We spoke to her about, and that's, at the end I have a little announcement to make too about the show coming up this weekend, but that's another thing. Like we were bugging her, talking to her all day today, and but she's there. She's she's available. She's getting back to people. I mean, there's a lot of projects on the show now, so definitely everything does get reviewed. And like Dan said, it was a two-person sort of thing, and now it's expanding. We got more people on board, and so it's growing. It really is growing, and it's I love it. I'm actually enjoying time on there, and it's great. It's great because it also connects you. Like I feel like all of us that are on there like connected. Like, oh my, gotta watch Josh, gotta watch Johnny Hauser, gotta watch Dan, gotta watch. And so like it's created this little like Biddy family that I love. So
well, it's a Paranormal Warehouse family. It's where it all began.
That's true.
Paranormal Warehouse got pillaged. No, but we're all working together though. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And Josh, do you think you will write another book soon? I know you said you're not a writer, but
I know. Like I'm hoping to for sure. I have really weird ideas about the next book. Like the different things that we can do with our mind, possibly. Call it what you will, ESP or whatever, but different phenomenon that are associated with that. And I mean, I've always had this really weird idea about, the human brain anyway, and what we don't know about the human brain could possibly hold what we would consider to be life force, chi, soul, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, it makes you wonder, the third eye, so to speak. Or I mean, all of these things, somehow connected into one. There's a lot, like I said, that we don't understand or even know yet about the mind, or consciousness, specifically consciousness.
Yes.
But,
oh my God, I love this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it could go on for days, honestly. Like, it's just phenomenal to me. It is absolutely phenomenal to me. So it makes you wonder. It just makes you wonder. It does.
It really, really, really does. Now, before we, because we're getting close to the end here, I just want to say that tomorrow night, guys, at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time.
So 10:15.
I want all of. No, because it's going to be Elizabeth putting it out, so it's going to be on time. We already sent it off to her, so she's got it ready to air. But tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern time, you guys are going to get and this is going to go out on the Vidi, I believe on the Vidi Space, on their Periscope. I don't know if it's the Haunted Space or Vidi. It's Vidi Space that's got its Periscope, right?
Yeah, they use Periscope, and then it goes on Twitter, and it gets thousands and thousands of views. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys are on Periscope, and either way, they're going to simulcast it to Facebook, I believe. But what's going to go up is it's going to be episode 7 of the Ghost Box Chronicles, not the Ghost Box Chronicles Live, but the Ghost Box Chronicles. I mean, you guys saw the last 2 was 5 and 6 though at the Stagecoach Inn. So episode 7 is actually one that we filmed out in Northern California in Oakland at the Cohen Bray Mansion. We filmed that one back in September, and we finally got it put together. Nice. And we sent it into her. So it's going to be
great.
It's going out. Yeah, it's going out tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern,
nice.
And then it's going to replay again following day, Thursday, 10 a.m. She goes, "Is that weird time?" I'm like, "No, do it." Get
no, this is. I love this. I love this because she was talking to me about this. This is going to be a great opportunity for everybody to see something without having to get a membership. So you're going to get a little taste of some of what we have available on the Haunted.Space and Vidi.Space, guys. So like the Vidi Space, the Periscope page, just find them and watch it. Yeah. For
because
free.
What they're gonna watch it for free, because it's only gonna be up there for a while, and then she's gonna take it down and it's gonna go up on Vidi. So everybody, please don't miss it tomorrow night. We're gonna be putting up reminders so then you guys know that it's up. But it's a really, really intense, neat episode. Some really cool stuff happened. You're gonna see something that I thought was really cool, and it just sort of happened organically. And I know Chris talked about it earlier today, so I don't want to give away too much, but it was something, you think about a seance, but think about an electronic seance with a spirit box sort of type thing. It was, and it just happened organic. Like we were there, and then it just turned into that.
Is that the new word, organically? You're using that a lot tonight.
Organically. Daniel.
It is Taco Tuesday.
It is. I'm going to go have some organic tacos.
There you go.
Nice. Very nice.
Organic El Paso beef.
Yeah. Anywho. Anywho. So, yeah, guys, watch that tomorrow. And I think it's perfect that they're putting it out tomorrow night and Thursday, because then this Friday night and Saturday night live on the Vidi Space Network, you guys will get to see us. This is going to be the return to Cohen Bray, but it's going to be live, and you guys are going to get to be a part of it with us. You're going to get to be there with us.
What time are you on Saturday?
Friday night and Saturday night, both at 10 p.m.
And I'm on at 11 with a new episode of Within These Walls, guys, at 11 on Saturday, too. Check it out.
Awesome. Oh, so this time, my show's before yours.
Oh, no.
Oh, maybe.
She's like,
Well, let's see what I can come up with. I like it.
Just remember where you're booked for the next shoot, baby.
Not fair, Dad. That's not fair. But yeah, guys, and just subscribe to Vidi, and you can watch all 3 of us there. Crazy heads here. Yeah, and then a bunch of other great shows that we've got up there. So that's about it. Anything else you'd like to mention, Josh?
No, I'm good. Just thank you.
Yeah, thanks so
Awesome.
much. Appreciate it. Guys, make sure you tune in next week. We're going to be talking to the owner of a new location that we started streaming on the Haunted.space. It's the Old Park Hotel. The owner, Dan LaFave. So we're going to be talking to him about his location, what makes it haunt, and hopefully you guys will get to know it a little bit better next week.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to tune in next week. Again, tune in tomorrow and watch Ghostbox Chronicles Episode 7 on Video Space Periscope at 10 p.m. Eastern. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Smile, and remember to make someone else smile, too. Mwah. Love you guys. Bye-bye.